This is 2 Minutes Together, a ministry of Central Lutheran Church, Eugene, Oregon. I'm Pastor Ben. This week, we have in our readings a theme on Sabbath. We have Deuteronomy when Sabbath is instituted, and then Jesus in Mark chapter 2 talking about what Sabbath was made for. There's a variety of things going on here, but I'd just like to reflect on the very idea of Sabbath. And this is really coming from the famous rabbinic scholar Abraham Heschel, who made the point that if you think the idea of Sabbath is about rejuvenation so that you can go work harder next week, you've missed Sabbath entirely. So Sabbath is not just us being able to rest and worship on one day, but to remind us of how we worship every day. One aspect of what Sabbath does is it provides a structure of time to our relationship with God. It's actually not that common in the ancient world for people to mark each day separately. In the Roman world, for example, they didn't have days of the week in the sense of like, say, it's the third of the month. They didn't do that. They had, it's so many days after the first, or so many days before the Ides, or so forth. They didn't think in that way. But in Israel, they did because they had Sabbath. Because time mattered. Yes, it was one day out of 7, but it gave a consistency to every day. It wasn't about what do you do special on Friday night to Saturday night, but instead, how do you live before God at all 7 days a week? Yes, you did do different things on that 7th day. We as Lutherans don't usually practice a Sabbath in that way of stopping work and so forth. Some might, but not usually as widespread, and certainly not in the same way as in Jewish practice. But the idea that every day we live before God, that God is present sequentially for us, is very real for every one of us. This is 2 Minutes Together. I'm Pastor Ben.